Over his last 10 games for the Chicago Bulls, Josh Giddey has totaled 207 points, 96 rebounds, and 92 assists, making the Australian guard one of only 8 players in NBA history, alongside Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Nikola Jokic, and Luka Doncic to put up those minimum numbers over a 10-game stretch in a season. That is quite a legendary company to be in for such a young player who, when you look at it, wasn't even seen by a lot of Bulls fans as a worthy return for trading Alex Caruso last summer. More than that, Josh Giddey joined the Bulls team who started the year featuring several guards in their roster, which is why Giddey's long-term role for the team was seen by many as questionable at best, especially considering he's also likely to demand a massive contract extension once he enters free agency this coming off-season. But then, fast forward to the trade deadline as the Bulls front office signaled a new direction for the franchise, with them finally trading Zach Lavine, and also with a season-ending injury for Ayo Dosunmu and with Lonzo Ball experiencing injury problems of his own, Josh Giddey's importance to the team's offense suddenly skyrocketed, with him experiencing a massively increased ball handling and shot-making role as part of the team's backcourt alongside Coby White. And the results so far have been telling. To begin his Bulls career, Giddey's numbers were pretty much just at par with his career averages. Prior to the All-Star break, he averaged just 12 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, and 1.1 steals per game, while shooting just under 45% from the field. But since the All-Star break, his numbers have seen a massive jump to more than 21 points, 10.3 rebounds, 8.9 assists, and 1.5 steals per game, while shooting a much improved 51.5% from the field. Also, within that span of time, Giddey has been a plus 155 for the Chicago Bulls. That is a top 25 mark in the NBA among all players to have logged at least 100 minutes since the All-Star break. And these are not just empty stats that Giddey's been putting up. As for a team that's considered to have no chance of making the playoffs to start the year, the Bulls have had a pretty solid 8-6 record in all of those games that Giddey's played since the All-Star break, with the team now having a solid grip for a spot in the play-in tournament. Even when you take away that long beyond half-court game winner that he had against the Lakers, Giddey still had a ton of highlights this season. His counting stats are also already impressive, but in this video, let's dive deeper into what's really fueling Josh Giddey's emergence as a star for the Chicago Bulls. So let's get to it. One of the main subjects of skepticism towards Giddey's game has always been his inconsistent jumper, but then this season, one of the main drivers of Giddey's increased efficiency has actually been his improving three-point shot. Well, even when he was in OKC, Giddey has never really been a high-volume three-point shooter, but since his last season with the Thunder, Giddey has displayed a consistent shooting stroke and fluid, repeatable mechanics from the three-point line, which he has carried over with him to Chicago. Compound that with the Bulls trading Zach Lavine, and Giddey has further incorporated a new trigger-happy and confident mentality to his outside shot, which appears to be paying off. Prior to the All-Star break, Giddey only converted 34.5% of his 3.5 attempts per game from deep, but since the All-Star break, Giddey has increased his volume to almost 5 attempts per game from deep, while also draining a highly efficient 51.7% of those 3-point attempts. Well, sure, you still can't expect Giddey to consistently pull up and create his own shot from behind the arc. 90% of his 3-point makes this season have still been assisted, but Giddey's strength as a mainly catch-and-shoot guy still serves his purpose for the Bulls as a supplementary shooter, especially with Coby White being Chicago's primary on-ball scorer. But more importantly, there's also increasing evidence that Giddey's recent hot shooting is no fluke, as he's also been efficient from the free throw line, converting 64 of 79 or 81% of his free throws since the All-Star break, which would be a career-high mark for him. But then, another thing that's also been fueling Giddey's improvement has been some added aggression as a driver. Giddey's shot making has always been built around his ability to consistently attack downhill, and now with him having a much bigger on-ball usage since the Zach Lavine trade, Giddey has also naturally upped his driving output, which has also resulted in an increase in efficiency. Prior to the All-Star break, Giddey only averaged 8.9 drives per game while only converting more than 47% of his shots coming off drives. But since the All-Star break, he's upped his volume to 15.3 drives per game, which is the 12th most in the NBA within that span, and has also converted 56% of his shots coming off those drives, which is actually the 8th most efficient mark among all 48 players to attempt 5 shots per game coming off drives since the All-Star break. Well, Giddey doesn't necessarily have a crazy bag or the quickest first step, but he has an extremely elite ability to process driving angles, especially coming out of ball screen actions. Giddey knows how to take advantage of open lanes and gaps in the pick and roll, and at 6'8", he's got both the size and strength to create mismatches against either guards or bigs who get caught off his ball screen attacks. Combine that with his knack for physicality and an ability to make crafty finishes, and it's no surprise that since the All-Star break, Giddey has converted 66% of his shots at the rim, which would be his best shooting clip at the rim over a 15-game span in his career. In this possession, watch how Giddey uses the ball screen from Vucevic to get past Hachimura and to force the switch against the slower Jackson Hayes. Giddey puts his head down and uses one quick burst to back Hayes down before finishing the acrobatic layup. Then here, you can see Giddey using the double drag action to set up his attack. He targets the smaller Tyler Herro on an island as Giddey uses his wide body with one spin to just bulldoze his way into the rim. But also, with Giddey's improving three-point shot, you'll see more of those lengthier defenders starting to pick him up high on the floor, and as a response, Giddey has also been displaying an improved ability to get past defenders in isolation, using his underrated burst off the dribble and a greater willingness to embrace contact. Here, you could see the lengthy Scotty Barnes trying to deny Giddey from behind the arc. As he gets the rack, Giddey swings once and straight up attacks and uses his speed to get into the paint. Jakob Poeltl is there to provide help, but Giddey still finishes with a tough up and under with his left hand. Here, against the bigger Thomas Bryant, you can see how Giddey starts to plant his left foot to actually create a driving lane to the right. Bryant uses his wide body to stop the drive, but Giddey decelerates, takes the contact, and drains the floater plus a foul. Those personal fouls he's been drawing have also been one byproduct of Giddey's increased aggression. With him attacking more and embracing contact much more frequently on drives, Giddey's averaged 5.9 free throws per game since the All-Star break, which is the most by any Bulls player within that span of time. This has definitely helped the Chicago team, who ranked dead last in free throws attempted per game this season, to climb up in the top 20 of that category since the All-Star break. But then, even in those times when tougher defensive coverages and when quicker, stronger defenders stop him from getting all the way to the basket, Giddey's 6'8" frame and his soft touch still come into play when he utilizes his go-to floaters to bail him out from the middle of the floor. And this season, Giddey's actually shooting a career-high 48.4% on those floater shots within 10 feet of the basket. Right here, you can see Giddey attacking the ball screen action as he gets the switch against the 7-foot Nick Richards. Watch Giddey lower his shoulder a bit to create just enough space to move Richards as he rises up for that 10-foot floater. This time, you can see Giddey being guarded by a tough defender in Derrick Jones Jr., who actually gets past the screen from Collins. Giddey's one step ahead towards the rim, but he knows that Jones has the length and the bounce to block him, so he instead releases the ball early and converts the bank shot. At this point, Josh Giddey's definitely showing signs of developing into a legitimate 3-level scorer, although it is his elite playmaking vision and his passing arsenal that still serves as the best part of his game. Giddey has always used his driving game to collapse defenders in the paint, which opens up his path to finding cutters and shooters around him. But then, even while just standing around the perimeter, Giddey's 6'8" frame also allows him to see over defenders and to make tough slingshot passes to open teammates. Giddey has shown strong chemistry with most Bulls players, but as of late, I love how his passing has particularly helped rookie Matas Buzelis establish himself in the starting lineup. Buzelis' versatility as a long, athletic 6'10" wing who can thrive both as a shooter and as a cutter has been a perfect complement to Giddey's playmaking vision and craft. In this play, Giddey uses the ball screen from Kevin Huerter to get into his driving lane. His gravity forces two weak side defenders to collapse on the help, which opens up a cutting window for Buzelis as Giddey sets him up with a beautiful one-handed drop-off pass. Again here, Giddey uses the ball screen action to attack, and as the defense goes into a high drop, Giddey already sees the low man defender ready to rotate near the dunker spot. He identifies the gap, so he throws the quick one-handed laser pass to Buzelis, who's got just enough daylight to hit the corner three-pointer. Again, listed at 6'8", it's also not surprising that Giddey has established himself as Chicago's second-best rebounder this season next to Nikola Vucevic. Ever since he was in OKC, Giddey was always one of the best rebounding guards in the NBA, with the size and the natural competitive nature to grab boards. And in the context of the Chicago Bulls, this obviously means more opportunities to push the pace. Given Giddey's playmaking flair, when he grabs a rebound, you'll often see him looking ahead, not wasting any time, and just ready to dish out those long and precise dimes to teammates who are running ahead on the open floor. Giddey has definitely been a huge reason why the Bulls have been continuously thriving as a running team, who's recorded the second highest transition frequency and who's averaged the second most transition points per game this season. Overall, with that kind of floor generalship together with his scoring improvements, critics are definitely running out of ways to discredit Josh Giddey's game. Well, sure, on the defensive end, he won't always have the foot speed to keep up with the quickest ball handlers in isolation, but with him coming into Chicago with a slightly bulkier frame, Giddey now looks more suited defending shifty guards and even some bigger wings. Plus, he's also displayed renewed energy and increased awareness as an off-ball disruptor, as Giddey's averaging a career-high 1.2 steals per game this season. Moreover, Giddey's already showed glimpses of being a small ball help-side rim protector during his last season in OKC, and has actually continued to bank on that skill in Chicago. This is a guy with some real shot-blocking instincts who's got quick hands and a good nose for the ball, whose 6'8" frame as a guard will always make him a versatile weapon for the Bulls. Well, given Giddey's overall improvements and skyrocketing numbers since the All-Star break, it isn't hard to imagine him becoming an All-Star as early as next season. There aren't many players in the NBA who can average close to a 20-point triple-double even just for a span of 15 games. But Giddey has been doing that as the second option of a young Bulls team that's very much on pace to make the playoffs this season, which is why it's also very likely that the Bulls are gonna reward Giddey with at least a 5-year, $150 million contract this summer. Some would say it's an overpay, but I think it's a very reasonable amount, considering that recently, we've seen players with arguably lower ceilings than Giddey signing rookie extensions close to that amount or even higher, just like Emmanuel Quickley, who signed a 5-year, $175 million extension with Toronto, and Devin Vassell, who signed a 5-year, $146 million deal with San Antonio. Well, for now, Josh Giddey's focused on the Bulls' late season playoff push, but in the long term, I'm definitely more excited about Giddey potentially further developing into a more polished 3-level scoring guard for Chicago, ideally next to Coby White and Matas Buzelis. As a Thunder fan who watched him play since his pre-NBA days, I never once doubted that Giddey had the makings of an NBA star, and now we're starting to see him becoming that in Chicago. Thank you guys if you've actually made it this far into the video, but do you actually believe that Josh Giddey could be a superstar for the Chicago Bulls? Feel free to drop your thoughts in the comment section below, and again, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing as well. Again, this has been Real Balls, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.